This is my house.
Hello there. I found time to watch a movie called The Beekeeper, a new release action movie. At the time of writing, it was sat on a 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb, and I wouldn't say that was far off. I quite enjoyed it. I suppose I'd better put the kittens back up, the kittens that started as a joke and have become a smash hit for the channel. I think they've received the most positive feedback of anything I've done. I realised a while back that female viewers could be put off by the regular cosplay girls. That was part of the thinking behind having a gif of Henry Cavill in a bathtub in the bottom corner, to try and make them happy. It seems, however, that women prefer the kittens. The consensus seems to be that I need yet more kittens, and then get rid of the British guy talking and my videos may be somewhat watchable.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
The plot may sound familiar to you when I say vaguely that some people in the film anger entirely the wrong man. The worst man of possibly anyone they could have picked. In the title role is Jason Statham playing Adam Clay, a retiree who keeps bees and was a member of essentially a group of off-books government hitmen. Some people wildly overstep. He then comes out of retirement and seemingly tries to depopulate a large part of America. Basically, it's the plot to John Wick. It was around this time I developed a drinking problem. So I may as well put up some John Wick cosplay, because that's kind of what the film is anyway. But on the whole, I would not say it's as good as John Wick 1. It has a 1 hour 45 minute runtime and an interesting cast. In the supporting roles we have some serious actors and some frankly inspired casting. In the supporting cast is Jeremy Irons playing a retired CIA agent, and I like Jeremy Irons, he's a proper actor. It also has Josh Hutcherson, who you may know from playing Peter in the Hunger Games franchise. In this he's in the role of a spoiled young tech billionaire, and he performs so much better in this role than he did in the Hunger Games for me. I had to look up the casting director, and he's a Londoner called Daniel Hubbard, and he also may be a low-key genius, because in the role of Clay's neighbour and kindly retired schoolteacher is Felicia Rashad, who for me will always be the mum in The Cosby Show. She was Claire Huxtable for about 8 years, and at least for me, I immediately felt kindly disposed to her and her character in this film, and that serves the plot of the movie very well. The film for me is by no means a masterpiece. It's a bit of a crib of John Wick. It's an action fest, and for me the script didn't do the best job of explaining the secret society of the Beekeepers. It's a lot less well fleshed out than the world of John Wick, but it delivers a lot of fights and a lot of action. The bad guys are all pretty easy to hate, and I appreciate that the makers seem to want to deliver an entertaining movie. It would be quite nice if the film got a sequel or two so they could flesh out the world a bit more and maybe take the idea in its own direction instead of stepping in the footprints of John Wick so much. So should you go and see it? Maybe. It depends on you really. Do you want to spend money on theatre tickets? People mostly seem to be coming out with a positive review of the film. Do you like action movies with not a great deal of story, and what there is not exactly inspired? And there may be too much action for some people. It can start to get a bit numbing after having a lot of similar action sequences right next to each other. The film is written by Kurt Wimmer, who did The Expendables 4, where Jason Statham did a handbrake turn in an aircraft carrier. It's directed by David Ayer, who did the first Suicide Squad movie with Will Smith in it. Do you like Jason Statham movies? Because I tend to. Hashtag I survived John Carpenter's Ghosts of Mars. I've been tempted to review Jason Statham's entire filmography, including when he was a background dancer in music videos. And yes, that is really him dancing there in some leopard print speedos. What a lad. That was a music video for a band called The Shaman and a song of theirs called Coming On. A video from far back in the mists of time, from the gone and long forgotten year of 1992, and that was after Statham tried being a diver at the Commonwealth Games.
England's Jason Statham. He's in 9th position. Forward 2.5 somersault with 1 twist 2.8.
I didn't make any of this up. He really did all of this stuff. You can tell how old that footage is because he still had hair. But if you don't like theatres, and you don't like action, and you don't like Jason Statham, maybe stream the movie later or just give it a miss. From here on in, I'll be getting into spoilers. So in this, Jason Statham is playing a character called Adam Clay, a retiree who keeps bees. He's living on the land of a retired female teacher being played by Felicia Rashad, who is the mum from The Cosby Show. And he's a bit of a tragic figure in this film. They kind of both are. She's renting out some buildings to him and he's lonely as her family have moved away. And he doesn't seem to have anyone either. He says at one point that she's the only person that's ever shown him kindness in his entire life. She invites him over for supper. It doesn't seem to be a romantic thing, but more like because she's lonely. That he reminds her of her deceased son and she likes having someone to look after. And he's helped her by bringing life back to her land with his hard work and bees, but they never get to have supper. He goes off to look after his beehives while she's doing some computer work. In her retirement, she helps to run a charity. While she's doing this, her computer locks up with a message to call a number, and she gets scammed out of all of her money. All of her savings, her pension, and $2 million from the charity, while the scammers celebrate and high-five at their office. When Statham turns up later to her house with some honey as a gift, she's taken her own life. He sees smoke in her house, and when he goes in, he finds her body, but also gets arrested by the police who think he's responsible. The lady's daughter also turns up, who's an FBI agent, and immediately suspects Clay of doing it. When he gets out, he decides to come out of retirement, uses some old contacts to find the scammers, and goes to their place of work with 2 jerry cans full of petrol and burns the entire building down. But the scammers were part of a much larger criminal enterprise and sent some men to track down Statham by looking into who they had scammed and who would be angry enough and able enough to do what he did. Eventually they find him and blow up his beehives. He sees them coming a mile off as they're not exactly quiet. They smash his honey jars and he really liked those bees. 4 men follow him into a barn and only 1 ever leaves again. He dispatches 3 and then burns the entire barn down. Statham then starts to track down more members of the group, which leads him right to the top, and the character of Derek Danforth being played by Josh Hutcherson, who is a truly dreadful person. It's like Mark Zuckerberg opened up a scam call centre business. He's essentially a pretty loathsome character. He has made himself rich by robbing the elderly and vulnerable, and unluckily for Statham, he also has some very powerful contacts. His mum is the President of the United States of America, and he used his dirty scam money to run her election. His head of security is also ex-CIA. That's Jeremy Irons, who's an old friend of his mother's. Software made for the security services has been repurposed to profile and scam the elderly. Adam Clay then goes on his mission of revenge. He's a retired off-books government hitman who used to be with a group called the Beekeepers. They try to ensure the survival of America by being willing to remove people too dangerous or that the law enforcement can't deal with. For me, the best part of the film may be when the bad guys call up the current active Beekeeper, one of Statham's replacements, to deal with him. She comes in swinging hard and she has a chain gun on the back of a truck. She just explodes into the scene like a comet when he's in a gas station. For me, that was the best scene in the movie, and it's a shame it happened so early, as the rest of the film was a bit of an anticlimax after that. Statham has to fight a lot of people in this movie. He turns another scam call centre into a war zone, and gets through so many security guards, FBI, ex-military people, that young Derek flees back to his mother's house, and to get him, Statham now needs to wade through the Secret Service as well. The whole time, he's being tracked by the old lady's FBI daughter who's trying to catch him. And I'm not exactly sure of the ethics of scything through maybe 50 or so Secret Service agents who are just there doing their job. They've probably got families. It would seem more logical to me to maybe just use a sniper rifle and leave the Secret Service guys alone, but if there are ethical problems with any of this, the movie doesn't seem to have in any way noticed or even cared. At the end of the film, Derek tries to use his mum as a human shield as Statham bursts in looking for revenge. Statham then dispatches Derek before trying to leave, and the FBI agent realises that justice has maybe been done as well as it possibly can be, and just lets him go. So that was The Beekeeper. It probably won't be winning any awards, but I didn't think it was a bad effort on the whole. And if done right, and the franchise finds its own path, it could be a thing that started life as a copy of John Wick, and if developed properly, could end up being a better franchise. Am I being too hopeful? Probably. But I didn't think it was a bad effort. I liked it more than Ghosts of Mars. On the whole, for me it was maybe a bit above average, maybe even good in a time of very weak competition. Compared to trying to watch the Marvels, it was a joy.
Jesus. Never rub another man's rhubarb.